thank all of you for joining us today and watching Top Industry Trends and Customer Experience series. We really appreciate you joining. As everyone knows, delivering exceptional customer experiences in a rapidly changing world is very important and top of mind for most organizations. And we brought in a leading voice here today to kind of help us unlock new insights and get a different perspective on things. So whether you're a business marketer or a customer service professional or just simply interested in learning more about customer experience, this session is for you. I am Chad Hamblin. I am part of the worldwide financial services industry team. And with me, I have Theodora Lau, who is an esteemed author and expert and pundit around anything that has to do with customer experience. She's also written an amazing book, I believe, a co-author of Beyond Good, How Technology is Leading a Purpose-Driven Business Revolution. I hope I got that right, as well as Metaverse Economy. And Theo, I know you've done a ton of work around customer experience and certainly appreciate all the kind of research and kind of due diligence you've done around it. We'd really love to kind of pick your brain today about this important topic. But first and foremost, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Chad.
Very happy to have you here today. So let's kind of just jump into things here a little bit and talk about this important topic of customer experience, and very important, I should mention, for financial services. So the first question, Theo, I wanted to get your take on is, what emerging trends or behaviors do you believe will most significantly impact the future of customer experience in financial services?
I think I'd say economy. Economy. I believe, any day and every day when you read the news, you will hear about interest rates being at an elevated level or economic uncertainty. All of this play into the minds of consumers. What's keeping up at night, right? What are we worried about? And when you start thinking through that and peeling through the onion, that's when you see the behavior demonstrating through buy now, pay later. More and more people are gravitating towards using different means of financing, at retail point of sale, or, PFM tools falling out of favor because consumers need something more than just tracking where they're spending. They are demanding more from their service providers. They want their banks and credit unions or fintechs helping them out through the uncertainty. So don't tell me just how much money I spent in coffee last month, but tell me and help me plan through how I can navigate the current economic uncertainty or how I can navigate through the increasingly complex financial lives that we're all living through.
Completely agree. And that kind of brings us to the next topic here, which is obviously very kind of, if you would say topic du jour or kind of, that one of the key topics in the market today, and that is AI. And specifically, how can financial service organizations better integrate AI and chatbots and virtual assistants into their kind of broader overall omni-channel communication approach with customers? Would love to kind of get your take on that.
It is my favorite topic, and not just because it is the topic du jour. AI has been in place and we've been using it in financial services for quite a while, but I think we had just been touching the very tip of what it can do. We are very much in the beginning of an evolution, if you will. So when we think about AI, the great thing about AI is it can decipher through our data. It can provide us with insights. It can tell us how to go from point A to point B.
I completely agree. And I think, one of the things that a lot of financial service firms struggle with is how do they kind of bridge the gap between physical and digital touch points? All financial service firms are striving for that kind of seamless omni-channel customer experience. Easier said than done. But how can they kind of bring both kind of the in-branch, the contact center, the digital, the online, kind of bring all of these different touch points together, including, of course, the AI piece?
It is a really fascinating question. I think the one thing I would caution, and oftentimes we tend to think in extremes, cashless doesn't mean no cash. It just means less cash. Less branches also doesn't mean no branches. It just means that we need to rethink how we're using the current assets that we have. And so I think what we tend to forget when we move everything to digital from one channel to the next, we forgot the human element of it. And I think it is important that instead of turning everything into just faceless numbers and transactions, we need to remember why financial services exist. there's human in the center.
I completely agree. And I think, sometimes that's lost on people as everyone gets excited about, new technologies and obviously generative AI, and, everyone wants to, kind of latch on to the next trend. But at the end of the day, we're all humans. We like to interact with people. So completely agree with you. I know that we're getting a little tight on time, but I certainly want to give you an opportunity to ask me any questions here as well. So by all means.
I do. So one of my favorite topic is about culture, right? So if you think about digital transformation, we need to have a proper culture in place. We think about, creating a new products and services. We need to have the right culture in place. So what I do want to ask you is, what role does culture and leadership play in creating an organization that is customer centric? How do you actually instill a customer first mindset throughout the company? Because it's easier said than done, isn't it?
I was just going to say it's easier said than done. So you took the words right out of my mouth. And I think, it needs to be, it really needs to come from one of two areas. I think it either needs to be embedded into the culture of the company from kind of its core inception or over the years of operating that company, or it really needs to come almost as a mandate from top down and kind of be part of that core ethos of the company. And I think the companies that do it well usually originate from one of those two areas.
I do like what you just mentioned, though, because I think for financial institutions to succeed in providing good customer service, having a good tech stack is important, because that can give you the data that you need about your customers. And from that, you can service your customers properly, because, 360 is really needs to be 360.
But the one last point I would just make is that I think with the excitement, in some ways, the hysteria of generative AI, people do lose sight of the fact, and I think you hit this point earlier, that there is also the human and physical channel as well. And I think when organizations look at generative AI, they shouldn't just look at one in isolation of the other. Yes, generative AI is very important. It can help automate a lot of kind of tedious tasks. It can give more time back for value-add tasks, but also organizations need to think about how are they going to integrate Gen AI into those human-led channels, right? Because in many cases, there's this customer journey, if you will, and maybe the beginning of the customer journey may be Gen AI led, but then as you get into more complex and more difficult conversations, there may need to be a handoff between Gen AI and the human-led channels.
I like what you just said. And it reminds me of something too, is as you are implementing the technology within your process flows, do make sure, and I'm a strong believer in this, do make sure that you're transparent about what you're doing. Because the worst thing you can do from a customer experience perspective is to present a chatbot as if it is a real person, only for a customer to find out later that they were talking to a bot. I think that would be a big turnoff. I do appreciate, right? I appreciate companies who come out and say, hey, I am giving you the technology to hopefully cut through some of the questions faster and improve efficiency and productivity. But if you need to, we will get you a human agent. I think there's a place and time for that.
I really appreciate you carving out time in your busy day to guys share your thoughts and ideas around customer experience. We appreciate all of our viewers joining in today. Hopefully you're able to share some useful ideas and tips and things for people to think about as they kind of look at customer experience, and also kind of some ideas on how you can use technology to better address customer experience in your organization. And we certainly encourage our viewers to either reach out to myself or Theo or other people at Microsoft if you have any questions about our technology. And of course, Theo, you have your own business there, and certainly encourage people to reach out to you as well. They want to tap into your insight, but really appreciate everyone joining today.
Thank you for having me.